Thank you very much then. This is an update of the Samvera Marketing Working Group for this Connect here. So just as a recap for those people who may not be familiar with this working group, we are one that meets regularly every fortnight on a Wednesday at 11:30 Eastern Time. We have a Slack channel for specific discussion, but otherwise we also welcome people to join the calls, come along, have a discussion. We are somewhat lower on numbers just because some people have had to move on to other responsibilities. It's very nice to be able to have members move on to better and greater things. So please do come along and have a conversation about marketing Samvera in the context of a couple of things that I'll just describe shortly. We have our wiki page there as well, which has information about the meetings, but also some resources as well about how to present Samvera if you're talking about it externally. Just a brief update on engagement that we've undertaken this year. For those, some of you may have seen this at the events we were at. One of the strands of activity that we take forward and have done for a few years now is engage with conferences and key conferences where there may be relevance and likely interest in Samvera. And the three that we mostly give attention to are Code for Lib, Open Repositories, and DLF. And just to reflect, I suppose, some takeaways from the events over the course of this year, now that all three of those have happened. Code for Lib, of course, shifted its time zone this year to make it easier for people to attend because they really wanted to do it face-to-face, and it was great to be able to do that. And we sponsored the conference at a particular level to highlight Samvera. We believe it's important to keep maintaining a presence and awareness of Samvera at Code for Lib, given its the value of that conference more generally to library technology. And so we're looking to continue that going forward where we can at an appropriate level. Those people who are presenting at Code for Lib, always great to hear about your papers. If there's any way in which you feel it would be useful to showcase Samvera at that particular conference in different ways, then do please let us know. Open Repositories was also back this year, and it was great to be able to do that back in person, and that generated some useful and good discussions at the conference itself. One of the things we trialed when visiting produce a bunch of materials to give away, because we're trying to be as environmental and sustainable as we can, is to generate some QR codes and have those QR codes available, and they take you through to various relevant parts of the wiki and or the website so that people can benefit from those more direct links into the information we can share at those events. If you're interested in using those QR codes going forward, then please do let us know. And then DLF the other week, not so long ago, was also a useful engagement and also highlighted a particular way in which Samvera can promote itself in tandem with our vendors. We have, as a community, had tables at various events over the course of the year and the past few years. Sometimes they've been successful in generating discussions, sometimes they haven't. What we did find, however, in particular, was that by sharing a table with one of our vendors this time, we were able to engage with those people coming to talk to vendors more proactively, which was helpful in engaging conversation more generally about the community. Moving on, a couple of points for reflection and discussion by the community, which we welcome your input on. Firstly, to reflection on the role of the working group, marketing working group as it's called at the moment. The working group has been in place since we changed the name from Hydra to Samvera, and the purpose of it originally was to get the name Samvera out there so that people recognized it for what it was, and also for that it was now the new name for Hydra. And hopefully we feel we've done that. That job has been done, and it's been a successful transition. Essentially, we were marketing the name and we were marketing what we did. We reflected earlier this year that actually most of what we do now, we asked the question, is it marketing or is it more outreach and engagement? And hence, are we actually, the working group, doing what we say we do, which is market, or are we in a position where actually revisiting our charter and refreshing that around that outreach and engagement aim be more appropriate? So we are doing that, and we welcome thoughts on the approach that it would be useful for the working group to take forward in terms of helping Samvera to be known in the best way that it can be through the activities that we can support as a working group, in tandem with the engagement that people are having more broadly through events and internal and external conversations that they have. So thoughts welcome in the Slack or through one of our meetings, and very much welcome participation and contribution in order to help us take this forward. Moving on, one of the other conversations we've been having, and this is simply to share and reflect, is that we have a Samvera motto. And if you look at the bottom of slides using the Samvera PowerPoint template, you'll see that it is, if you want to go far, go together. It's a motto that's served us very well over the last decade, and it has been in use for a long time. But feedback we've received highlights that it still applies and it is still used, and that's great. But in keeping with refreshing and understanding where we want to go as a working group and whether or not where our shift of focus may be, we also ask the question about whether or not that motto, used as it is quite extensively and broadly, not just by us, but by others as well, and ask the question, does it now convey everything we wish to say about Samvera, given where we are now and where we would like to promote ourselves in the future? So we're looking to try and ask and reach out to the community in the way that we very successfully did when we came to change our name, to ask for input on new mottos or perhaps additional mottos that we may be able to use to help frame and describe what Samvera is for us and how we would like to present it to others outside the existing community directly. Let us have your thoughts and ideas. They're all very welcome, and we know that there is a very creative community out there that could contribute. Lastly, don't forget we have an FAQ on the website, which is intended to help people coming fresh to Samvera to understand what we offer. Suggestions for updates, always welcome. We do keep an eye on it, but again, we're always interested in understanding what questions you're receiving to know what we can present through that FAQ. And where you are presenting on Samvera, it's always great if you could use the Samvera slide deck and templates, which again, we'll keep an eye on and maintain as a group, but please do use them. And if you do produce presentations using them, then please do share them, because it's great to have an insight as to how Samvera is being presented to different audiences around the place. Otherwise, gone a bit too long, I think, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Adam, you're up next.
All right. All right. I am Adam Marling, go by he, him, and I'm a developer at Northwestern University. And I was one of the volunteers, I think, that reached out along with a couple of my colleagues on our dev team, Northwestern, to kind of help out with the Samvera.org migration, which I think was earlier this summer or late spring. Just move this a little bit so I can see it. So some of the primary goals, and again, I was helping more on a technical level than the motivational behind it. But from what we understood, some of the overarching goals on this migration are to move away from WordPress and the custom WordPress theme that I think was like contracted and in place for the past few years. And then also to kind of like investigate some maybe more modern alternatives, maybe some static site frameworks, to see if there was something, that caught our attention. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, how do we arrive at a new platform that's easy for community members to manage content? And eventually where we wound up was evaluating a few of the static site frameworks out there, and we arrived at Next.js, which is kind of a full stack JavaScript framework, but very capable of spitting out static sites at various levels of scale, and something that we were familiar with and have used in a few projects, our team in Northwestern. Next.js, just a quick overview. It kind of follows the Jamstack site pattern, if people are familiar with that, which basically kind of means at the end of the day, with your static site, you don't need a server or a backend really at all. It offers some benefits, including performance, security. There's no place to really, there's no database to hack into. It scales, and it provides a really nice developer experience with the ability to get your hands on some modern kind of tooling. So a new site overview. I have a couple tabs open. So this is kind of it in its current shape and form. And again, this was just kind of a migration, not necessarily a redesign. So hopefully at the end of the day, it's not finished yet, but it should retain the look and feel of the existing current site. And just as an overview, so it's a full stack app hosted in GitHub at Samvera, in Samvera Labs. The name of the project is just Samvera.org if people are interested in checking it out. Before the static site is generated, it's a full stack app, Next.js app. It uses markdown files for all of its content. So that was one of the main, I guess, initial tasks that we did. We would take all the database content or the MySQL content from the existing site, which is how WordPress stores its content, and basically batch transferred all that and converted it into markdown files, which is now what the new site is using almost exclusively for its content. So Next uses Node.js on the back end to kind of handle markdown files and process those, hands those to React on the front end, which handles the UI rendering logic, I guess. And then I also decided to use Tailwind CSS, which is another kind of more popular styling CSS tool that people might be familiar with to make styling updates pretty quick and easy and almost inline in the future. And then during the build process itself, again, a static site is generated. The site currently is hosted or can be hosted for free at GitHub. Currently, it has the GitHub IO address, but once this is fully realized, we can point samvera.org to GitHub and we can host it for free. So how do people update content? Again, just real quick overview. I could go into further detail if anyone is curious, but this is the general project structure. So most of the content that a content manager would be interested, it's all in this markdown directory. And the way I set this up is all these folders kind of map to the main navigation on the site itself. So say you wanted to, or someone would update the FAQ page, you can do this right in GitHub. You could pull it down on your own machine, make your content updates. And again, that would correspond to this page right here. Make whatever updates you want. And then you basically just submit a pull request, which you can do again straight through the GitHub interface. And then someone else reviews that, it merges in. And when it merges to main, it will have GitHub Actions set up. So it'll create a new static build and the site will be automatically updated. Again, just high level general overview for developers out there. If anyone's curious to see a pattern of how you might, build a static site just with markdown content alone, there's some patterns in there that are kind of fun to come up with and might prove helpful if anyone's curious. And lastly, here's some links if folks want to check it out. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Adam. I think we had a Bulkrax update next, but I'm not seeing Rob. Rob, are you here? Oh,
Yes,
see
I'm
Rob.
here.
There you are. Sorry, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, I just made
I
you a
was trying to figure out
panelist.
how to tell you I was here when I couldn't talk.
Yep,
Okay.
I made you a panelist, so you're good to share.
I'm pushing the buttons. Sorry, I decided at the very last second to review my slides in the Samvera slide format because I listened to the last talk. All right, here we go. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Excellent. So this is the Bulkrax working group updates. I'll start with brief what is Bulkrax, though I do feel like the Emory presentation earlier did a really great job of explaining this. So I'm going to go fast. It's an import-export tool for Samvera applications. It supports round-tripping of data. It includes a UI, API, and CLI tool. It can import from OAI feeds, CSV, and several XML formats out of the box. It's easy to override and customize for individual applications. And we do a regular release cycle with clear upgrade paths as we move apps from one version of Bulkrax to another. So you can find it at Samvera Labs/Bulkrax. Who is Bulkrax? There are known users at ETLA who paid for the sort of initial Bulkrax implementation. We learned about Emory's implementation earlier. The British Library and British Museum use Bulkrax. NIMS, which is the Materials Research in Japan, uses it. It's not here on my slide, but the Department of Transportation for the US government uses Bulkrax. Washington University, Advanced Digital Library, Poundley Palsy, GBH, and more. You all can probably figure out that I am not Braden Justice. I'm Rob Kaufman. Braden is the current product owner. He's not able to be here with us because he is currently residing in Japan, and this is not a reasonable time for people in Japan to give a presentation. When is Bulkrax? So the Bulkrax interest group / working group meets on the 4th Tuesday of each month at 4 p.m. Eastern. We were kind of meeting internally as a team because SoftServe does so much Bulkrax work and realized that it would be better to kind of branch that out to the whole community. So we kind of put a fixed thing on the calendar and formed the group around it. Bulkrax itself does not currently have a release cadence, so we don't like release every week or every 2 weeks, but we do regular version releases. Why is Bulkrax? Often the ingestion of the old thing into the new thing gets pushed to the end of a build process, and it's often a few scripts that are just thrown together. Bulkrax gives us a solid platform to deal with whatever the unique challenges of a given institution's ingestion process is. And let's just focus on that, the business logic, and not on providing a basic UI to see whether the import succeeded or doing reporting or any of those things. And that those things get improved over time as you go from project to project to project and run into unique challenges. It's the ability to it emphasizes that the ability to get items out of repositories is just as important as getting them into our repositories. Export is a first-class citizen in Bulkrax and is an important feature. The ability to export a small collection into a CSV, edit that collection, and then re-import it is something that's just really great for quick edits. You can share standard parsers for formats like Perl, mods, mets, OAI, etc. We don't have to reinvent that wheel every time. And as I mentioned before, SoftServe was meeting really regularly because we have Bulkrax on 3 or 4 active projects at any given time. And we didn't want to have the left hand changing the way updates work, while the right hand was also trying to change the way updates work, for example. So we transitioned this into the working group to make room for the community to participate. And we are very close. There are 2 open tickets for getting Bulkrax out of Samvera Labs. It clearly meets the user requirements. I think there's just some CI setup that's left to, then we'll be asking for promotion. It didn't fit in the meme slide. So we're looking to increase participation in the working group. That's a big shock. I know that none of the other groups are looking to add more people or interest to them. But we'd love to get more folks coming to that, even on a semi-regular basis. If you're using Bulkrax, let us know. And specifically, there's a page in the Bulkrax GitHub repository that lists the folks using Bulkrax. It is empty right this minute, so I will put a link to that in the Samvera Connect Slack. So if you're using Bulkrax, you can let us know. That'd be awesome. And shameless plug, SoftServe is available to do Bulkrax installs and configurations. And that's it. I'm done.
Thanks so much, Rob. Moving right along, we have the research data working group update. Brian, you ready?
Yes. All right. Thank you, Carolyn. I'm Brian McBride. I'm head of digital infrastructure development at the University of Utah. My pronouns are he, him. Get this out of the way. So the Samvera working group update. So just want to make sure, announce all the working group members who've spent a lot of time over the past few months working on this project. Their names are there. And then we were tasked with the following. We're trying to gather information regarding who is using Samvera software for the research data platforms, and document the interest in the community for the repository, data repository features, and document the current state of Samvera software in terms of the functionality that is either present or not present in Samvera applications that research data repositories require, and capture existing and possible future use cases. So we went about this back this summer, and we decided to sort of track a questionnaire into 3 separate areas of focus. The first one was organizations who currently use Samvera applications for research data. We wanted to understand more about why they chose the Samvera applications and collect feedback. We structured these questions very open-ended way so that we didn't really constrict people to the responses. So we wanted to get as much feedback as possible. The other track was organizations not currently using Samvera applications for their research data repositories. So we wanted to understand why entities maybe evaluated Samvera and why they chose not to use the Samvera application, and what was it about the application they chose that made them take that path. And then lastly was the organizations that don't currently have research data application solutions in place, but are actively looking. So we crafted that survey later in this summer and released it in the fall. We disseminated it to the Samvera Partners Tech Community Listservs and the HiQ for Consortia, the Code for Lib Listserv, the Fedora Community Listserv, the Data Curation, Research Data Preservation Network, Activist Alliance, and the Research Data Alliance. We left the survey open for 3 weeks. Survey data overview. So we're still in the process of going through this, all the data that we collected. So just in summary, we received 54 responses, and it breaks down 11 do not currently provide research data or services. So we got some information there. For the third track, 22 are using an application other than Samvera to provide data repository services. 14 are using Samvera applications. And unfortunately, there were 7 incomplete or duplicate responses, which we had to remove from the analysis. And we received 16 responses from partners. So we just wanted to give everyone at Connect a little bit of information before we publish the report later this year. So the main themes as to why Samvera applications were chosen. Samvera is open source and community supported. That theme was pretty common throughout. Flexibility to develop and tailor to local needs. Again, that was really important thing across the board. And it compared favorably with other open source options at the time of evaluation. I think that really is important to note. And ease, and this was sort of existing familiarity with the Samvera stacking code. And again, specific benefits for the repository, Haiku's multi-tenancy, and more control by depositors via self-deposit. The other thing is Samvera applications and why they were not chosen. Extensive development work is required was a theme that we heard. Lack of in-house capacity to migrate and support Samvera applications of production. And the difficulty in bringing new developers up to speed in Samvera. And I know these are all things that the community is actively working on right now. Gap support for larger data sets, descriptive metadata schemas, creation and bulk upload. So in closing, we're going to provide a final report, including all of the survey data to the partners by the end of the year. And we wanted to provide the community with another opportunity with a birds of a feather meeting today at 2 to provide some feedback and information. If this is the first you've heard about the working group, we encourage you to show up so we can take some information and include it in the final report at the end of the year. And if you want to stop by the Slack channel, and you can pass along information there as well. We do meet every other Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. There's our link to our wiki. And if you just want to reach out to me, that is my email address below. So thank you.